You're listening to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. You're on the Bible Forum tonight. We are spending this time together looking at life through a biblical lens. We encourage you to watch us live every Sunday night, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. You can do it on our website, thebibleforum.net, or our Facebook page. It is no secret, if you know anything about life, if you know anything about the Bible, that there are a host of biblical passages, entire books of the Bible dedicated to end times events. I want to share some of those things that are happening that point us in that direction. Over in Great Britain, their publication, The Daily Mail, ran a piece recently entitled Surveillance of Entire Earth, Big Brother Satellite Army. They're claiming that Bill Gates is joining a group of investors for an initial investment of about $1 billion American to ring the Earth with satellites all the way around. It's being called Earth Now. It'll be built by a company based in Seattle, Washington. It'll consist of about 500 satellites, which will offer no place to hide video coverage on what they're calling high-value enterprise and government customers. The coverage is being provided to them. I shouldn't say of them, but to them. Can you say Big Brother? In that same vein, there was also an article running this week entitled Compulsory Biometric ID. This is being announced by the European Commission. A German national publication called Die Welt is reporting that the European Commission has announced plans to make biometric ID cards compulsory across the bloc, EU, which will allow authorities to bar terrorists and criminals from accessing money and other services. Plans to introduce mandatory ID cards across all 28 EU member states, including Great Britain, have been in development for more than 2 years in Brussels as part of the Commission's goal of building an effective security union. Along the same lines, we have talked about it, you watch it, you see it, you hear it, you know that cash is going away. What's new is that credit card companies are paying small businesses to stop using cash. Young people and others are now routinely using cards rather than cash. A decade ago, it was surprising to see people paying for coffee or other small items with a credit card. Now we use them pretty much for everything. We pay bills online, or we let the bank pay our bills for us. Rarely do we send checks anymore. We're moving toward a cashless society. For convenience? Well, yes. But is it convenience for us? The numbers are not easy to track. The number of young adults who pay their bills, send money to friends, fill up their cars, and buy groceries all without touching cash is growing to the point where some financial experts believe that today's teens may be, in another decade, the first cashless generation in the United States. So on March 29th, that's today, Visa is announcing the 50 winners of its Cashless Challenge contest, which challenges small businesses that now accept only credit card payments to compete for $10,000 in prizes. Visa may be awarding $500,000 a year of its money to small business for the simple act of foregoing cash payments, but the investment can have a powerful knockout effect. As the winners explain how going cashless has had a positive impact on their business, this becomes marketing and research data that credit card companies can then use to persuade others to abandon physical currency. In addition to that, the more businesses that go credit only, the greater the level of acceptance we are likely to see across the broader spectrum of society, resulting in increased credit card use overall and more businesses getting rid of cash. No more counting of cash. No more armored car services to pay for. No more trips to the ATM. No cash for thieves to steal. And the list goes on. 25% of Americans no longer carry cash. 33% of adults between 18 and 35 no longer carry cash. Only 21% of Americans still use cash as their most common form of payment. I'm guessing they're over 70. And we carry no more than $25 on average. For credit card companies and banks, collecting fees on every transaction is a powerful incentive to undermine the use of cash. China uses an app-based digital payment network called WeChat. They boast 12.8 trillion digital transactions just in the first 10 months of 2017. Denmark and India are also moving quickly to get away from cash. Communist countries can track your spending and either reward or punish you for your choices. Cut off the use of money for drugs or guns or whatever they want. The Bush administration apparently went after credit card processors of pornography sites. The ease with which such a system can either reward or punish systems based on their purchases is reminiscent of what the Bible teaches us about the Great Tribulation. And if we don't have enough to worry about, have you ever heard of the Hayward Fault? I know we know about the San Andreas Fault. Do we know about the Hayward Fault? This one lies north and south, just inland from the Pacific Ocean in northern California. And scientists are saying that it is a tectonic time bomb. They believe it could move at any time. And were that to happen, it would produce another magnitude 6.8 to 7.0 earthquake. That according to the USGS report in 2008. Did you note that? 4 years ago. Since then, the research has indicated that the likelihood of a Hayward quake is greater and more threatening to the 7 million Bay Area residents than a San Andreas quake would be. According to KTUV in California, new research indicates a magnitude 7.0 earthquake along the Hayward Fault could kill as many as 800 people, injuring 18,000. The U.S. Geological Survey cited findings from a simulated tremor with an epicenter in Oakland and said the disaster would cause 400 fires that could destroy 50,000 homes. Nearly 500,000 people would be displaced. If a 7.0 magnitude quake occurred like the one simulated, researchers say the East Bay residents could be without water from anywhere between 6 weeks to 6 months. Electricity could be out for up to 4 weeks in some locations. And that doesn't include Yellowstone. Yellowstone National Park sits squarely over a giant active volcano. In the 1960s, scientists realized the size and scale of this monstrous volcano for the first time. It is 44 miles across. And not until the 1980s did they really understand that this thing was fully alive and that it still threatens to erupt catastrophically. Yellowstone is capable of eruptions thousands of times more violent than that of Mount St. Helens back in 1980. The Northern Rockies would be buried in multiple feet of ash. Ash would rain on almost everybody in the United States. It would be a bad day. So geologists are eager to understand what exactly is happening below all those volcano-fueled hot springs and geysers. Now, a supervolcano is not really a technical term. The experts refer to Yellowstone as a caldera, or a caldera-forming volcano. A caldera is a volcano that creates a vast crater. These are mountain-swallowing events. Visitors to Yellowstone are given a map showing the outline of the most recent caldera, and if they go to the right vantage point, it's possible to see that the heart of the park is remarkably free of mountains. They are either blown away or fell into a big hole. The Yellowstone region has seen at least 3 big eruptions in the distant past. I'm betting one was when the earth was covered with water in Noah's day. How about you? Science places it 2.1 million years ago, and the most recent as 630,000 years ago. Science dates back from known qualities, but science does not factor in a God who can do as he pleases, nor the possibility that things appear older than they really are, or that things may have been working differently in the distant past. This particular article that was published is reporting not an imminent blow, but a long, quiet nap. It's possible, they say, that Yellowstone is actually getting a bit old and tired, and it may be ready for a long nap rather than a major eruption. But then that's what the 24/7 news cycle brings to us, isn't it? Did you know that you're more likely to fall in the bathtub and break your hip than suffer from any of these things? But we like to worry. We can worry if we want to. Worry seems to be good because the things that we worry about never seem to happen. Last Monday, about 600 men, women, and children from Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras were waiting in Hermosillo, Sonora to board a train to take buses to the remaining 432-mile trip to the border of Mexico with California. Traveling together for safety, their numbers were down from a peak of 1,500 since they began their journey on Mexico's southern border with Guatemala almost a month ago. Smaller groups have broken away. This week, they were at the border in Tijuana and receiving legal advice from U.S. lawyers. Today, they are looking to cross that border. Most members of the group say they are here because of death threats from local gangs or political persecution. They believe under U.S. law they would be allowed entry. One woman said, "If they're going to separate us for a few days, that's better than getting myself killed in my own country." Lawyer Nora Phillips said, "We, the lawyers, are the bearers of horrible news. And that's what good attorneys are for." The mostly Guatemalan migrants, many traveling as families, plan to test President Trump's resolve after he instructed the National Guard and the Border Patrol to arrest any migrants caught trying to sneak in to U.S. territory. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Christian Nielsen said the asylum seekers should first ask Mexico if they can stay there. Any asylum seeker making false claims to U.S. authorities may also be prosecuted, along with anyone who, quote, assists or coaches, end of quote, immigrants on how to make the false claims. The Trump administration claims that asylum fraud is growing, and many of the migrants are heavily coached on the correct answers to obtain it. Coaching migrants as to what to say and or do in order to get into the U.S. is strictly forbidden by U.S. law. These are some of the signs of the times, believe it or not, as the time gets closer to what the Bible describes. We'll talk about more of it later.